Last January, 3 separate clients paid me over 20 grand each for email packages. 2 of them never got on a call with me. And the third, we just spent 5 minutes chatting before he said, cool, send me over the payment link. There was no pitch, no proposal deck, not even really any objection handling. They all just kind of said yes. Now, I'd love to tell you that that was all down to my copy being so mind-blowingly good, and who knows, maybe it was. But ultimately, I don't think that's what happened. What actually happened is that by the time they'd reached out, the decision was kind of already made. I'd not written a single word for them, but they trusted me completely. So in this video, I want to show you how that trust was built and also go into why most copywriting consultants are missing the elements that make that trust happen. Let's begin with a bit of backstory. So it was January 2025. Actually, I tell a lie. It was the 31st of December 2024. And a client of mine reached out to me. We'd done some work together. I'd put together a few sales sequences for him. I'd spoken to him back in the October. We'd done some work together, got some really good results, and he was super happy. He reached out on New Year's Eve and said to me, hey, Mike, I've been having a think. I've chatted to my accountant. I need to spend some money in the business. So this guy's business is based in the US. His year end for the tax year was the 31st of December. And he said to me, the accountant said, you need to spend about 20 grand, otherwise you're going to get penalized for tax purposes. I would rather give you that 20k than I would give it to the IRS. Is there a way that we could sort out an arrangement where you write my emails for next year if I pay you up front today? Now, I think any copywriter would get an offer like that and be like, yep, cool, let's do it. Even if you think, well, 20k for a year's worth of work is not like super high-end fees, ultimately the security of having that and getting one lump sum, like that's pretty alluring, right? I knew this guy was super easy to work with. He didn't actually want that much. He said, could you do me 2 emails a week? So you work it out, it's about £200 an email, right? It's a bit lower than I'd normally charge, but for the fact he was a great client, I get along well with him, I know his business, I know we get results together, happy days. I was perfectly fine to go along with that. So we said, yeah, we got the deal done before the end of the day and it was all great. But it kind of got me thinking, well, if he wants that, maybe there are other people in my network who would think, do you know what? Actually, 20 grand for a year's worth of emails, that's a pretty sweet deal. So what I did was I put together a bit of a mini offer. It wasn't like a full-blown campaign. It wasn't a huge, fully designed sales page. I think I wrote 3 emails, about 3 posts for social media, and I put together a short Google Doc that talked through what the offer was, all that kind of thing. And I was super honest, and I said, look, one of my other clients reached out to me and asked for this. I'm just saying, is there anyone else out there who would like it? And I actually had 2 more people who were interested. I'd put all the prices on the document so people knew exactly how much it was. The only difference between this and the first client was that I said, look, if you're a UK-based business, there has to be VAT on top of it as well. So it was the 20 grand plus another 4k for VAT. But yeah, 2 other businesses reached out to me and said, yeah, we'd like to discuss this and look at doing it. The one of them I basically had a back and forth deal on Instagram. He went, yep, cool, let's go for it. So I sent him over an invoice and he paid. The other business was 2 guys, so I got on a quick call with them. We had a bit of a chat, and the same thing, after 5 minutes, they were like, yep, cool, happy to go ahead with it. There wasn't really any selling. Like, I don't do sales calls particularly. I've never been trained in sales, and I'll always say to people, look, if you want to chat, that's fine, but I'm not going to sell you. Just ask me some questions. If it's a fit, we'll go ahead. If not, let me know. That's totally fine as well. So it's all very chilled and laid back, but within the space of, I think from the first payment coming through to the last one, it was like a couple of weeks. We'll get a screenshot somewhere on here, so it might be more than that, but it certainly wasn't more than about a month. And it was 68 grand for the year up front for 3 clients who I was really excited to work with. So that's the backstory. What actually made that happen? Well, first of all, I think it's important to understand that there are kind of 3 levels of trust. People throw the word trust around a lot. They talk about, oh, we're in a trust recession. The phrase I hate at the moment is, here's how to build trust at scale, because firstly, it's AI generated slop, and secondly, what's it even mean? But in my mind, there are 3 levels of trust. So the first level is competence. Are you actually good at what you do? A lot of copywriters and consultants obsess over this one. They throw around metrics, they throw around social proof, they try and seem really, really clever. And it's weird because that's not really how people buy. Yes, social proof is important, but it's only one element of a buying decision. Like, people's brains work that way to an extent, but it's not why we buy things a lot of the time. It's an element to the buying decision process, but it's not everything. So for me, if you show people you're competent and you share the odd screenshot of what a client said, you talk about your track record, that kind of thing, you don't need to ram it down people's throats. People need to know you're good enough. They don't need to know you're the best. The second trust level is character. Like, are you the kind of person they want to work with? And this is why personal branding is so important. Again, it's another phrase that's thrown around a lot and has kind of lost a bit of its meaning, but it really does matter, especially in 2026, or if you're watching this in the future, I'm sure it matters even more. But people want to work with people they can get along with. They want the kind of person who is going to meet deadlines, not even meet them, they're going to be early. The kind of person who says, okay, I've done that work for you, what else do you need from me? The kind of person, especially as a copywriter or a consultant, you go out there and look for opportunities. You don't just do the work that the client's given you. You actively look at their business and you say, have you considered this? Or this is working with another client of mine. Would you like me to install the same thing in your business? That kind of thing, along with just who you are as a person, that's what you need to start getting across. This comes down as well to some of the personal values. So I know that all these clients that took up this offer, we all massively value freedom. We're very much around like lifestyle freedom. So one of them travels extensively. Another one is very much in line with me on like freedom of speech and liberties and being quite anti-establishment. And one of the guys, the original guy who signed up, he often writes about how his days are built around family. He travels quite a bit. He takes 4 weeks off and still makes money, that kind of thing. So we're really aligned in that sense. We might not agree on absolutely everything, but it's the kind of thing where if you boiled it down, we would agree on probably 80 to 90% of things. And that's not to say that you have to always try and conform to what your clients believe, but it's a really good example of why actually it's just important to say what you think. Whether you're marketing yourself on social media, via email, even paid traffic, even if you're going to in-person events to try and win business, just think about like not blending in with the crowd. If you've got opinions that are a bit controversial, don't be afraid to say them. If there are things you really geek out about and like, talk about those in your content. There's a reason why I talk about ultra running, why I talk about Wes Anderson movies, why I talk about Irvin Welsh novels, why I talk about, I don't know, I haven't got my bright green car anymore, but I used to have a bright green car. Like all that stuff, it goes into that character. And when you've got character trust, again, that's when people want to work with you. And then the final trust factor is consistency. This is massive. Again, I've kind of worked through the 3 levels of trust in levels of how important they are, because unfortunately, copywriters, consultants, anyone in the digital marketing space, we kind of have a bad reputation. We have a reputation for being unreliable, for being late, for having to be chased for stuff, for doing the bare minimum. I don't necessarily know why that is. Maybe it's just the character trait that we're entrepreneurial and we flip from one thing to another. We're not great at finishing tasks. It might be because copywriting and consultancy has almost become a bit of a biz op, so it attracts those people who are the more get-rich-quick types. Or maybe people just aren't charging enough money, and actually they phone in jobs just because they think, oh, I'm only earning $50 for this email. I don't know what that is, but ultimately you need to show that you are consistent, because as a client, that's the one thing you want. So that's why, again, it links into the personal branding. I talk about my routine every day. I'll often post what I'm doing in a day so people can see that I'm productive. I'll talk about the ultra running because, I mean, you can't be a good ultra runner without being consistent. You don't have to do those things, but all I'm saying is show that you're the kind of person who goes above and beyond and who is consistent, because if people are paying you a lot of money, that's what they want. They'd rather have someone who's good and consistently reliable than a genius who only shows up 50% of the time. The next factor that really made this work was the power of a network. So all 3 of these people knew other people that I'd worked with before they hired me. One of the guys even said on the call that we had, he said, look, I've not really seen much of your copy for clients, but I know that you're connected with and you were trained by Dan Meredith. Really trust Dan. So look, we're happy to go with you and pay you for the year up front. So Dan was one of my earliest business mentors. He's still a great friend of mine. And it was just that power of association that put the client, or at that stage, the prospect's mind at rest. And people often say, they throw around the phrase of, oh, your network is your net worth. And it kind of is and it isn't. It's not if you don't leverage it and if your network is actually full of people who are just a bit scammy, a bit sleazy, even if they're big names. I've hung around with people before who these days I have no respect for because I've seen how they run their business. And even though they're big names, I would actively dissociate myself from them. But I'm also very fortunate that a lot of my network are amazing people. They're well connected, they're ethical, they're moral, and they're super successful. So networking is all about give and take. But if you get a chance to connect with a prospect and you know mutual people, bring that up. Imagine there's a new restaurant open in your town and you look online and you go to TripAdvisor and there's 50 reviews that all say the restaurant is amazing. You're probably going to trust that it is, but you might still not go there. Whereas if you talk to your friend of the last 15 years who says, oh, we went to that new Italian on Thursday night, best pizza I have ever had, you're probably going to be booking a table for the next night, right? It's that kind of thing. It's the fact that we trust someone close to us far more than we trust strangers, even if there's much more social proof. There's a bigger volume of social proof from the strangers. So again, I'm not saying like you always have to tap up your network for gigs. I'm not saying don't use other client testimonials, but if you have that bridge with someone, use that. As a bit of a side note as well, you can build this even if it's not friends of friends. So I've had it before where I've been talking to prospects in the US, and we might have said something about, they might have said, oh, I support this soccer team. Well, if I've supported them as well, I'll mention that. It just builds that bond. It's a very weird thing because we think it's probably a bit by the by and it's not that important. But if you have any kind of power of association, use it because people are going to trust you more. And then finally, I also didn't really try and sell. There was no smoke and mirrors around this offer. Like I said, there was a Google Doc, but I was super transparent with pricing. I was like, look, it's 20 grand plus VAT for the year, or a flat 20 grand if you're registered business outside the UK. But there's not been any discounts or deals. It's like, it is what it is. I'm only looking for a few people for this because I can't take on that many. I'm also not going to try and sell you on it, but I did a very features-based marketing campaign, which is obviously not necessarily considered good marketing because we should be talking about benefits and unique mechanisms and tapping into pain points, all that kind of stuff. But I knew there were people there who would really benefit from this offer. And what I didn't want to do is put together something that was very marketing-y, to use a phrase that I hate, and get people who are like, oh, I'm not making any money from email at the moment, but if I hire Mike, I'm going to make 250 grand next year. Like, yeah, it might happen, but it's probably not going to. If your list quality is crap, if you've not nurtured it, if you've not got many subscribers, I didn't want false expectations. I wanted people who had successful businesses, so the money was there, they had it, they had good cash flow. People who were doing well, but wanted to do better. That's my ideal client for pretty much most things. Yours might not be the same as that, but have a think about the dynamic. If you try and come across as pushy, if you really try hard to sell, especially for a high-priced offer, it just comes across as a bit needy. The analogy I often use of this is a dating one. Imagine that there's someone who you're really attracted to and you've been talking a bit with them and, you know, there's a bit of a spark there, but you're not too sure. What would the best approach be? Would the best approach be to completely fawn over them, tell them all the benefits of you, to give them social proof from your last 3 partners who said what a great guy or girl you were, you know, give them a list of features and benefits about how you'll be such an amazing boyfriend or girlfriend? Or would you rather take a laid back approach? Laid back approach, not being negging or anything stupid like that, but laid back just being like, look, I think we get along really well. I think we could get along even better. Would you be interested in going for a drink with me? I don't know. I'm not a dating expert. I'm not a dating guru. I'm in a very happy relationship, so hopefully I will never be in that situation again. But I would take a guess that actually the laid back approach is going to be better because you don't come across as needy. It's the same with sales. Yes, if you're in certain industries, you need to push a bit harder. So like e-com products, stuff in the health space, all that kind of thing. In marketing, as always, there's a time and a place for anything, but it's situation dependent. For stuff like this, neediness absolutely kills sales when you're looking for sales at this value. So be laid back. Yes, look eager, look enthusiastic, make sure people know exactly what you can do for them, but don't go begging for the sale because it just looks a bit desperate. So there you have it. There was probably some more stuff that went into this as well, but breaking it down, they're really the key elements that I think worked well for selling this offer at this time to those specific groups of people. So a couple of things you can do now. First step, which is probably the easiest, go away, apply some stuff from this video and see how it works for you. Whether it's consulting packages, whether it's email retainers, something in another niche entirely. These principles tend to work across the board, so there's nothing to stop you just having a go at them, see how it works out. The other thing you can do, if you like the sound of this and you want to be the kind of copywriter or consultant who can command these fees and who actually doesn't have to work that hard for the sale, you can build the trust, the positioning, the sales strategy that make all of this possible. Have a look at ABP Mastery. So it's linked down in the description below. That's my course that basically teaches you how to go from a hired gun copywriter to a high level consultant who gets paid for their ideas. Might be for you, might not, but check it out and see what you think. Either way, would massively appreciate a like on this video and a subscription to the channel if you'd be so kind to do so. It just helps the channel grow, and I've got the goal of getting to 1,000 subscribers by Christmas, so your help would be much appreciated. Anyway, I hope that's useful, and I will catch you next time around.